Alrighty, so we've got all the cells in the black. The way they've been arranged is an alternate polarity, with the furthest back one being positives on the outside, and then you're alternating this way along. Either side will be same way around. Now it comes to the fun and tricky part. We have our pre-soldered battery management board. These will come. This may come to you pre-soldered. If not, we'll have another video for you to desolder them yourself. They will also be alternating. I find it easier to drop the whole lot in there. There's nothing really to short against anything else at the moment because none of the interconnects are in. Got this the wrong way around. Aha. Basically the way to do it. Right, quite right.
Stop. Okay.
Alrighty, so we got the cells arranged. You've got the positive on the top, on the far back side, and then alternating from then on in that way. First thing we do is put the antioxidant paste on. If you didn't order this, then don't worry, you can skip this step. Basically the way you want to do it is to start off by doing the top row of cells first. And just do it along the whole way. You don't need a whole lot on there, just enough so it's covered in a grey smudge. Of course, if you put a bit more on it, all that'll happen is it gets squeezed out the sides. So it's not bad if you put too much more, you just might waste a bit. Alright, stop. Right, now that we've got all the antioxidant grease on all the top terminals, we're going to start off by grabbing an interconnect and putting it in the first slot right there. Back there. You just place it on, and you get a bolt followed by a spring washer, and you put that through the helps if you untangle this first, but I forgot. Through the first bolt hole for the BMS, and you put a washer underneath and on top of the interconnect. You just basically all push it through and put in a couple of threads, and that's all that's necessary just to hold it there. And then you grab another interconnect and do the bottom one. Again, bolt, spring washer. Next BMS module, if it will comply with you. Then the washer, then an interconnect. Again, you can only need to thread it in a couple of threads in. You do the same for the top, so bolt, spring washer, BMS module, with the normal washer underneath, and bolt it down. Only do them a couple of threads in, because then you can use a whiz-bang electric bolt tightener to do the rest of them, so you're not spending all your time just tightening them down. You can let your excellent tool do that for you. And basically you just keep repeating all the way down. The only thing you have to really worry about is make sure the positive of the BMS module is on the positive of the cell terminal. If you get it the wrong way around, then nothing overly bad happens, it just doesn't work. Which is very frustrating when you get to the later stages of the conversion. Okay, start recording. Alrighty, so by this stage we will be halfway through the wiring of the bottom back. So you'll have the interconnects and the cell modules bolted to the top half, and the bottom half you'll have put the grey gunk on all the way across. Now, again as before, we start out, but this time you want to have the BMS modules, the extra ones, outside the vehicle, because that side's now live. If you put it across it, things may go bang and it can get very expensive, so don't do that. Let's start out with the side that has the positive up. It'll generally make your life much, much easier. And this time we're starting from the bottom, so that interconnect goes there. For this one we'll put 2 sets of interconnects ahead, or 1 interconnect ahead rather, so 2 total there. Then, same as before, bolt, spring washer, then a BMS module, and then another washer, your normal washer. And in we go. Now be very careful not to just pull on it, because the modules will catch on all sorts of things down the side of the scooter, so you actually have to do them up manually. Thus the bottom cells tend to take longer to do than the top ones. Cool. You've dropped the occasional washer down there, don't worry, we usually give you spares, so you don't have to take all the cells out again to get to your one, half a cent washer. Get it on there. If it all lines up for you, sometimes it's really good, sometimes it's not so good. As an aside, I highly recommend sitting on a stool or something when you're doing this, because if you're just bending over the entire time, you'll find yourself with a very bad back, even when you're just 20. So don't do that. And then you just basically continue on as you did before. So bolt, spring washer, washer, and the positives down on the second one. Okie dokie, now we have the full layer done, where we have the BMS modules and interconnects bolted down on every single cell. They're all only finger tight, or if that, only with a couple of turns in. At this stage, what we want is the bolts with holes in the top of them to be at cell number 6 from this side, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is where you want it to be, and then every 4th cell from then on in. So 1, 2, 3. It doesn't matter which side of the interconnect it's on, because electrically it's the same. And then another 1, 2, 3 over there. Those are for your temperature sensors. Now you want to leave this interconnect out, so that it's not quite as live as it could be, until after you've put your interconnects on. After you put the temp sensor boards on these holes. That's the last thing you do, and then we'll talk more about that when we get there. Yep. So while you've got them all loose, then you get to use your fancy torque limited bolt tightener. You want to tighten all the ones except for the end 4. So those 2 and those 2 you don't want to tighten at all, but the rest of them, tighten away. Make sure it's spinning the right way first too. It's quite an easy exercise. As you may have been able to tell, the amount of video devoted to this section is like the least, but this is the most time-consuming section of the conversion there is. Having to do 84 bolts. Yep. Alright. Okay, so all the bolts are tight except for the end 2, or the end 4 rather. Now we're going to get on to attaching the temp sensor boards that originally came with the bike. This one's been wrapped in duct tape. I highly recommend doing that for this stage, because the terminals on the board will be live when you connect it to the battery, and you don't want it shorting out. At the moment you just want to hang it off the side. It'll later be stuck onto a plastic sheet, but it's not there yet, so that's where we're going to leave it for the moment. Okay, the boards that are on the shorter set of leads, they originally came from the topmost rack of cells on your metal hydride pack. On your lithium pack, they'll be on the forwardmost bolt size. It helps to have the M3 bolts ready for when you want to do it. So we have the little M3 bolts this time. Managed to remember them. They should have a little spring washer and a really little washer. If you're missing one of them, don't fret. If the cell temperature board comes a bit loose, then it might just give you some nice spread errors, but nothing bad happens. So we're attaching the cell boards to the white one's usually the one connected to the front, and we're connecting them this way around. hang on. This is different. Oh, it's that. So where the wires go down, that's the side you want to connect it to. In practice, it doesn't really matter which side you bolt it down. It's just you're less likely to short stuff out if you put it this way and then drop something. They're really easy to lose, these M3 bolts, so try not to lose one. In the kit we will provide extras. If you do manage to lose too many, then you'll have to go dismantle your old metal hydride battery to get more. That job is quite tedious, as you may have seen from the earlier video. So the next shortest one goes to the next bolt hole. All the way. Back. Okay. Yeah. Really difficult to pick up. It's much easier if your screwdrivers are magnetically tipped, because then they stay with you. And the longest one to the end. Okay, once you've done that, the next step is to put the rear interconnect on. I've got one. Okay. Okie dokie. So that's the interconnect you want. We've pilfered this from the old metal hydride battery. You have to disassemble the rear battery all the way to the bottom, and it's in the very back. We'll include one for you.
Rolling.
Alrighty, so we've bent it up a bit more. Got one side in. Still fighting the other side in. Oh, there we go. Oh no! Just can't win. Let me get our handy drill. Tighten it down. I'll start with the side that gave me the most grief. And then we're good to go.